So what is social media? Social media is obviously a place where we can all connect online. And it's called social media because it's meant to be a place that we are social and communicating back and forth, whether it's with each other as friends and family, or with our business, favorite businesses, or favorite band, or sports team, or whatever that is. There are 3.8 billion users using social media worldwide, and that number is ever expanding. I think the latest I saw, in the next 5 years, they're expecting it to be 4.5 billion. So growth is going to continue to happen. The average user spends nearly 2 hours on social media. This was from last year. I know that these numbers are way larger, and we'll kind of get into some of the platforms that we see a little bit more of that. The users spend a little bit more time on, and especially now that everyone, since everyone's been home, or limited contact, people are spending more time taking breaks, going onto Facebook or Twitter or whatever platform they prefer. So utilizing social media, the big key to when you're on social media and you're using it as a business owner or a nonprofit or whatever you are, is you want to present yourself as an industry expert. So you want to basically, it's not a place to continually sell yourself. It's not a place to push your products constantly and say, hey, buy, buy, buy. We really want to be utilizing social media as a place that you give your followers a reason to come back to your page. And so that could be, let's say you're a roofing and siding business. A great example would be to talk about how to winterize your home. That may not necessarily connect specifically with what you offer, but winterizing your home could be a benefit to your clients. Another thing is, of course, keys to when a storm like this weekend happens. What should you be aware of? And if there are people knocking on your door, what are some questions you might want to ask to be sure that you're ahead of the game? So those are some keys, obviously, for that industry, but setting yourself up as an industry expert is going to be the key, and it sells you more as a, hey, we're a resource for you, rather than I sell these products, buy from me. We'd rather be a resource. So in that terms, give and ask, right? So if you were to post 5 times during the week, we'd want 3 or 4 of those posts to be more of a give. Post an article, post a stat, a picture of you with your team, things like that. And then 1 of those or 2 of those, and obviously you can swap that out throughout the month, would be focused on selling. Obviously promoting a product or a service that you offer. Right now, especially, this is an opportunity to connect with your followers and potential clients during this pandemic. We're seeing that a lot more people are engaging with posts. They're commenting, they're sharing things. So it's an opportunity to really to utilize social media as it's intended, as a social place, right? So when people are asking questions, it's really key to be answering those questions in a timely manner, to make sure that one, you're keeping those users engaged so that they feel that when they comment the next time that it's going to be beneficial for them. And 2, it also is beneficial on the side of the different platforms. Facebook looks at your response rate as a benefit for users. So if you respond fairly quickly, they're going to say, hey, let's show these posts to users more often, because they do a service to their customers, their followers, whatever. And the big thing is understanding the benefits. It's not necessarily always a place that, you know, you're not going to get like sales right off the bat. When you post something, you're not going to get, if you're just starting out, you're not going to get somebody that buys the product immediately. There are ways to sort of get that going, but the keys are focusing on building that brand and following, utilizing things, the platforms as a customer service, answering those questions, comments, and things like that. There's an SEO value to it. Google actually indexes some of the social media platforms, and there is an opportunity for sales as well. So let's talk about the biggest social platform. Facebook is the largest social platform right now, and there are 2.4 billion monthly users. Most of them use it from their phone. Some of them are using it from their phone and their desktop, but this is a key, especially if you're in the business of, you know, promoting things on your phone, or in an app business, or if you know your user base, you know, likes a certain device. Those are really key to know that Facebook is that. The other thing is it's a growing population in the older demographics. So the average user is 25 to 40, but that user number is starting to grow in a rapid pace. It is the fastest growing demographic is actually 40 plus users to Facebook, and they tend to be, what we've seen a lot is they tend to be power users in terms of they're very active, and they comment and share and like more often than users that have been on the platform longer. Again, female, they are newer to technology. So looking at your demographics, think about these things when you're trying to think about, all right, should I be on this platform as my business? This is one of the platforms that contributes to a majority of the time spent on social media. The average user spends 58 minutes per day on the actual platform. So that is huge. Big things to the keys to what to post are blogs and articles. If you find an article that relates to your business, if you are posting a blog to your website, you want to share that on your Facebook page. You can share links. You can also share links with images separately. And those are actually going to perform a little bit better if you add an image to your actual posts. Facebook, the algorithm actually looks at things like videos, pictures, and text, and they categorize them in a different way. Things have kind of been grayed out in terms of what the algorithm really looks at, because they basically changed it to saying, hey, this is, we want what the users want. That's what we're trying to promote. And so if you find that your users tend to like links better and those perform better, that's what is the recommended thing to continue posting. So some of this is actually looking at, all right, what are my users looking at? What are getting the most likes and follows and comments and things like that? And let's try to maintain that sort of stuff. Simple things are going to be quotes of the day, questions, stats and figures. Those are great social media posts to use on Facebook. Facebook is also a tool to drive traffic to your website. So don't forget to, when you are promoting a service or a product, add a link to your Facebook page or to your business website, right? You want to make sure that people have the opportunity to go to your website very easily if they see your post on their news feed. And of course, you can post events, and you can show services and products and things like that actually on your page. Some of the negatives of Facebook, obviously there's a ton of competition, being that it's a large social platform. There's a lot of companies like your own that are on there. So it does take a little bit of time to build that following and to really build that engagement. They've also basically changed once they changed their marketing to more of an advertising focus. It's become more of a space of pay to play. We're seeing less views on posts and things like that. Facebook actually limits to your likes. It's around 10% of your followers have the opportunity to see any given post. That number has changed based on comments and likes and shares, but really you're looking at 10% of your followers have the opportunity to see your posts, and if they're not looking on social media that day, they may not see your posts. So if you want to expand the visual of an event, a product or service you're trying to promote, you really have to look at using their paid platform. The nice thing is it is the best social media advertising tool out there. So you're at least utilizing that. And for some, Facebook is seen as stale because it's been around for quite some time. Instagram is the next one. Instagram is actually owned by Facebook. So they bought that, realizing, hey, this seems like a platform that a lot of users are leaving Facebook for. So let's add them to our toolbox. They have over 1 billion monthly users. So it's a very large and fairly quickly growing platform. With typically younger audience. So if your market, or whether you're trying to grow your market with millennials, or your market in itself is with millennials, Instagram is a great place to sort of build that brand and to try to connect with that demographic. They tend to be tech savvy, female, and 60% of that billion, they use it on a daily basis. So fairly active. Some of the other stats I read are that a daily user will actually post one story on their stories in Instagram on a daily basis. So people are very active when they are active daily users. Content to posts are visual, so they have to be an image or a video. That is something that sometimes, depending on your business, may not be as easy to do, right? If you are in like the financial industry or something like that, it might not be as easy to think of an image to post, or to find an image, because you don't have like a pet store where you can take pictures of a pet and that'll go really well. You have to be a little bit more creative, and so you have to look at utilizing tools like Canva or Photoshop or some other tools to make maybe text focused images. Quote of the day, add the quote to an image. Things like that are going to be super helpful to utilize to start to use Instagram. It's very hashtag centric. So hashtags, they recommend between, it's like 8 to 12 hashtags per post. Some experts say less, some experts say more, but that is a great way to actually grow your following, is to try to find hashtags that are trending that relate to your business or service, and to try to post those hashtags as people are searching on Instagram, following those hashtags. They have an opportunity to see you and see your posts and potentially interact and grow your following that way. Products and events are also great here. When you have products, you can actually like call out specific products within an image and things like that. So it tends to be a very heavy product area. The big things is I kind of already talked about it, is building your young following and gaining exposure with the millennials and selling your visuals, right? Selling, whether it's visual products you do. On our end, we might try to post an image of a website we just created or something like that. The negatives, it is phone-based. You have to post from your phone. So that can be obviously seen as a negative. It's not super well managed through third-party applications. There are other platforms like Hootsuite and Buffer and some of these other platforms out there that allow you to manage your Instagram from there. But the posts are not, it's not as easy. You can't change links and things like that. And then, of course, the last negative is you can't have any links in posts. So if you do post a link in your post, the link is not actionable. People can't click on it. So they won't be able to get to your website from any of your posts. What people do is typically say something like link in bio, and then they change their bio link on their actual profile anytime they need to change for a specific post. What we typically recommend is if you are typically posting like your blogs or something like that, just have your blog link listed there and utilize just leaving one simple link, and people, anytime they go to your blog side of your website, they're going to see the latest blog post anyway. So it helps manage those links so you don't have to interact as much with something like that. Twitter, I'm sure many of you are familiar with Twitter from the news and whatnot. Twitter is fairly stagnant with their monthly users. It has grown a little bit, around 30 million or so in the last probably 4 or 5 years. But it's fairly stagnant. It's typically millennials are a little bit older. They tend to be good with technology and female. You can probably see a trend. Female users tend to be fairly active on these different social media platforms. I will say a lot of them are like a 60-40 split. So that doesn't mean that there aren't men on these different platforms. So just realize that that is the case as well. They tend to be mobile users. Most, I think the stat I saw is 90% of users are actually posting from their mobile device, but you can post from your computer as well. And 40% of them are daily users. The big things to focus on content are going to be tips, facts, and quotes, and following hashtags that are trending. So you want to, just like Instagram, you want to find hashtags that relate to your business or that relate to something in your community that you would like to be a part of, and sort of jump on that bandwagon, if you will. This is also a great place to, when you're at events or you are meeting with a happy client or something like that, to share stuff about your client, or to be sharing in the now sort of moments about your events. So that's kind of what I would really focus on with Twitter. You can utilize Twitter to follow companies in your industry leaders, to really see, all right, what are they doing on this platform, and act as a fly on the wall, so you don't necessarily have to um, you know be sharing their stuff, but you can sort of see, all right, what are they doing, and how can I either do something similar to them, or uh, take what they're doing and do it better. Um, it helps allow you to interact and get to know your followers a lot better. This is a place where customer service is really sort of seen as like a huge benefit to Twitter. Customers often, your customers and clients often will reach out to companies on Twitter when they have an issue, a lot of times, or if they're super psyched, they're going to try to tag you in that and say, "Hey, I just got this great product from this company," or "Hey, I went to this event by this group. They do an awesome job." So they really do utilize it as a way to try to promote people, or utilize it as a way to communicate to you, so that you can take that feedback and obviously help your customer or client, and build and expand that relationship, or turn that sort of wrong into a right, if you will. And some of the negatives are going to be a lot of tweets are expected. They typically recommend 3 to 5 tweets per day. So that's a lot. I would not say that you need to do that as a business owner, but it is a way to sort of elevate yourself and to be recognized. And because they're so short, that's really the focus behind it. Oftentimes, if you have a longer tweet when you're in Twitter, you can actually tweet multiple times in a chain, and that allows you to take advantage of, hey, I tweeted 5 times today. So if you have a longer post that you would like to post, you can tweet it in a chain to have people follow you that way. And this is an area where a lot of PR explosions happen. So you tweet something quick and it's read wrong, and then boom, everyone hears about it. So obviously a negative. Typically that tends to be fairly large companies, but it can happen on the small side as well. With LinkedIn, I'm sure many of you are familiar with LinkedIn. This is a platform that is primarily on the male side. They tend to be older, 40 to 45, and newer to technology. But this is an area that is, as a business owner, especially if you are B2B or looking to connect with other business owners, this is a great platform to focus on. And especially if your demographic is in the US, because it tends to be users in the US. Content to post here are going to be things like case studies and blog posts. You can actually post articles on your personal LinkedIn page, and we would actually highly recommend posting those articles. And if you're a business owner, especially if you're the owner, to actually post or share your company content on your personal profile. Posting on your personal profile allows you to get those posts out in front of all of your connections, versus when you have just the business profile. Now you have a limited audience, and it's an unfortunate thing that that a lot of users don't realize that there are company profiles and that they can follow your company profile. So when you're posting there, oftentimes those things are missed, but it's a great way to, obviously on the company side, you can do things like posting jobs and updates with your companies and things like that. From a user standpoint, It's a great option to follow other companies in your similar industry to see what they're doing, and to really see how the market is changing and things like that. Other things that you would want to post are things like infographics. People love seeing stats and figures, and infographics, if you're not familiar, they're pictures that have statistics throughout them, and they tend to do very well on LinkedIn. People will comment and share them often, and it helps you sort of get that mini viral side of things that that we're all kind of looking for on social media. And then videos are actually a growing side of things as well. People are starting to do a lot more videos where whether it's a tip of the day, it doesn't have to be long, but those tend to be really a great resource, and they don't take a lot of effort, especially if we're all stuck at home. Taking a minute or two to read a blog or something like that, and posting that on LinkedIn can do a lot for you. I've kind of talked about some of the other things, the identifying referral partners, other organizations that you might want to follow. You can also participate in groups. So groups are kind of the space where you might have experts in an industry. You might have people that are maybe in the home industry, and they might want to collaborate with each other. That would be a great place to go and say, hey, we offer this service, and connect with others in that space. You can also find people that have like-minded passions. They might be people that like the Minnesota Vikings, or they might be people that are small business owners, and you can connect with those people in these groups to share, hey, this is what I'm doing. I know a lot of people were doing it, especially when like the PPP stuff was all out, and talking about how are you doing that. So great options there to really collaborate with people in groups. And then of course it's another place to show, hey, this is what my background is, and how many years of experience I have, and why you would want to work with me, especially if you're in that smaller micro business. This is a key place to have your profile filled out as much as you can. The negatives I kind of expressed already. Business pages are confusing. People don't really know they're there, and a lot of users will be posting on there, and not a lot of people are seeing those posts. So utilizing your personal page is kind of the way to sort of get around that, but it can be confusing for users. And if you've been on LinkedIn recently, they continually change the menu and where things are. So finding things can be difficult if you are not on there every day. So that can be a learning curve for users as well. Pinterest is another platform that has a growing following, tends to be female. This is a little higher on the female side, a little older millennial. They're tech savvy. They typically have kids. So if your demographic is someone that has kids, this could be a great place to focus on. The content is all visual, so it needs to be it needs to have an image. You need to have a link, which is beneficial to sending people to your website or something like that. And some of the content that is key is like posting things like checklists, obviously products that you've created, your products in the actual use, that can be super valuable. If you have tips, a lot of times they're things like if you're a a designer for a home designer. That can be super valuable here, showing some of the work that you've done that maybe you can't always display super easily. So that's a great opportunity. And it's also a place as an internal user to utilize for ideas, whether it's you're looking to update your office space at home. There's a lot of great opportunity to look at Pinterest for yourself to really help yourself. And so thinking of those things, utilizing that as a business owner as well. The big thing here is obviously increasing traffic to your site. So you can post links on all of the images to drive traffic to your website, to showcase your work and really point them, here's the product in action, here's where you can buy it. Those are key elements to Pinterest. Obviously, the negatives tend to be that it is visual. It's kind of like Instagram in that less users because of that. It's really a niche focus. So there's a lot less of a market for, let's say you're a lawyer, for example. You may not have as much to post on Pinterest. But if you have a product or service that is more visual, this may be a really key place to be posting. Snapchat. So a few of these are going to be, they may not relate to you as much, but we wanted to talk about them because as a business owner, you might say, hey, do I need to be on Snapchat? The answer is likely not, but it depends on one, how large your business is, how much time you have, and what kind of business you're in. So Snapchat does have quite a few daily active users. They tend to be younger. So if your demographic is younger, female and tech savvy, you've probably seen that same exact thing. The majority of US adults have used it in the younger scale. So they have some experience looking at it, but they're starting to be less active because there are other things like Instagram stories that sort of replicate the same idea. Content to post, they are snaps or videos. Snaps are just images of whatever you're doing. You really want it to be interactive and fun. The keys from a business standpoint is to drive brand awareness, to show you have a fun company culture, or you have these great products and you utilize them in public. You can show them off in use or things like that. It also establishes your business as more of a cutting edge, so you're ahead of the game if you're on a platform like Snapchat. The main things to be aware of are it is super costly to advertise on Snapchat. It really requires a lot more time and effort to build that engagement and that interaction. Has to be managed from a phone, and your content's not very actionable, so you can't really get people to click through your website or things like that. If you are an event space, or you are a place that might be more in person, like a retail space or something like that, there could be a benefit to Snapchat, but there is a time that's involved because most of your snaps are only going to be viewed for 24 hours. So you really have to be posting pretty often to continue to keep yourself relevant on the platform. And then this is probably the newest social media that a lot of people are talking about, and many of you have probably seen a lot of these videos on different platforms. They TikTok is a platform that has grown immensely in its short life. They tend to be a lot younger, 16 to 24. It is a 2-to-1 ratio of female to male, and they are very tech savvy. The app is being downloaded at a fairly high rate, but that doesn't mean that all of these people are active users. Obviously, there are potential for it being not a platform that we can use in some time. So that's something to be aware of. The big things are content posts are going to be, it has to be video. So this is a place that you can sort of jump on a viral bandwagon. People are doing dances and things like that to specific songs. And as a company or an organization, a church or whatever you are, you could potentially utilize this as a way to show, hey, we love to have fun and interact in this way, especially if you're trying to grow that younger demographic and relate to them. This can be a place to work in. Humor is sort of the key elements. So if your business is a little bit more, it doesn't focus on that side of things, this may be difficult to get into. And really, the keys are going to be driving your brand awareness and company culture, similar to Snapchat. The other things you can do are promote user interactions, so you can try to engage with people, with different users, to try to get them to post and join your sort of bandwagon dance or whatever you decide to do. It's very visual. Some people are calling it a fad social platform. A lot of people have a lot of extra time right now. And so that's some experts are saying that is why this has grown so much. But it can be a place just like Snapchat to show, hey, we're ahead of the game, and we have young users, and we interact with that crowd. And just like Snapchat, it is a fairly large time commitment. If you've seen any of the videos on TikTok, they take quite a bit of time. So knowing that is a big thing. You have to come up with all the dance moves and things like that. And just a quick touch, if you haven't noticed, Google Plus is no longer in existence, but they have sort of switched to what's called Google My Business. Google My Business is many names, but it's the Google Maps listing that many of you have. If you do not have a Google My Business page on Google Maps, highly recommend it. Huge SEO value. It also helps people find you when they're searching locally, but then you can also utilize it as a way to obviously get reviews, but also post content. You can post, and the post will actually last for 7 days. A lot of people don't realize that you can do that, but you can post things like updates. You can post things like events, and those will actually last until the event happens, and all different things. So highly recommend trying to find your logins and going into your Google My Business to take a look at that. Social media etiquette. This is kind of some are more social than business oriented. Obviously, LinkedIn is on the business side, and Snapchat and TikTok are on the social side. The benefits of things like Pinterest and Twitter and Instagram, and why those are kind of in the middle, is one, they are more engaging and visual typically, but they also have, Instagram has a lot of users, and Twitter and Pinterest have the benefit of being indexed by Google. A big thing when you're trying to come up with your social media plan is finding your voice. So not all social platforms are best for you. Your business may do super well on Instagram, but it may not do super well on LinkedIn. So look at things like the demographics we talked about, like your own demographics, obviously, what your product or services is specifically, and how that relates to the different platforms. Obviously, if you are B2B and in sort of a sales role, things like LinkedIn are going to be huge for your business. But an area like Pinterest is likely not as successful for you. The other key is, and this is a thing that a lot of business owners that start out, or they are deciding to jump on social media, is they get on every platform, and then they realize, now I have to post on every platform. Spreading yourself too thin is one of the biggest things that people struggle with, is now I have to post on this and that and this and that. If you focus on just a few, you're going to be just as successful as, you're going to be a lot more successful than if you were to focus on all of them. Plus, if you create a platform and you just leave it vacant, it may actually have a negative impact on your rankings or your reputation. The other thing is to get a schedule. Like I said, some of the platforms say, hey, you need to be posting 5 times a day, or you need to be posting all these different times. Get a schedule going and just start posting regularly. You can utilize tools like third-party applications like Hootsuite and Buddy Media and Buffer and all these different platforms that allow you to actually schedule your post in advance. And post on all of the different platforms from one area. I'm sure a lot of people have heard that posting from those applications, sometimes you don't get as many views. There are some instances where that might happen, where if you're posting all the same information all the time and not really changing to each of those platforms, that might be the case. But I think it doesn't have as much to do with those applications as it does the content that you're posting. So really, you want to try to focus on content that works well with that specific platform. So like I said, getting on that schedule, posting 2 to 3 times a week, and focusing on, hey, you're not always selling, sell once, and then the rest of the times try to give something, because that's going to be super important to your voice and to your following. And then one of the forgotten benefits of social media is actually search engine optimization. So your Google rankings can be impacted by your social media. Your Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, all these different platforms, they have, you should be sure to add your website link to all of those different platforms, and then add the social media to your website. If you don't have that connection, it's harder for Google to understand that those, your Facebook page and your website are connected. You want to create what's called a backlink by doing something like that. And Google actually index posts from the actual content that you're posting on some of these different ones. So I'd mentioned Twitter, Pinterest, Facebook, and Google posts. So those, your posts themselves are being indexed. So the content that you're talking about, the, if it's focused on your industry, if it's focused on what you do, who your demographic is, you're telling Google more about who you are. And you're now saying, hey, I'm more than just my website. I'm a broad cloud, right? I have this social media platform and this one. So you want to be bigger than just your website, so that you are seen, obviously, as a larger company in Google's eyes. And yeah, being active, I had mentioned that earlier, being active on the different platforms is huge, because you can actually be penalized if you're not. And then lastly, social media advertising is another big thing. We actually have a social media advertising webinar that's just focused on social media advertising. But you can, there's a lot of different platforms and systems that allow you to advertise. You can obviously control all of the ads. You've probably seen it on Facebook. They show up in your news feed. They show up in the sidebars with videos. They actually show up in between videos now. Same thing happens on all of these other platforms. It kind of depends on what your demographics are and where you would want to focus, but highly recommend, if you're looking at ways to especially build your brand or sell a product, social advertising can be a great place to look. And Facebook and Instagram are kind of the starting points for a lot of those because they have the best sort of advertising tools available and give you the most opportunity to have a successful campaign. And really, it's you've probably heard of pay-per-click on Google and things like that. This is a sort of a different world than Google. We're not paying to be shown for specific keywords when people search for things. We're paying to get in front of specific demographics and specific areas and things like that. So the difference really is you're telling Facebook, hey, this is the demographic that we think we are and we're trying to go after, and here's my ad. Let's get it in front of those people. So it's a unique opportunity, and it actually offers typically it's a lower cost per click and things like that to really drive traffic to your website. So something to really consider for that. And that is the presentation. I saw a couple pings come in for questions, so I don't know if Mike, if you want to chime in with those.
Yeah, just a couple. One, Gabrielle just pointed out that Instagram now has Instagram Reels, which is sort of a competitive product with TikTok. I wasn't familiar with that, but I don't know if other people are, but it sounds like it seems similar there. But it sort of raises a question for me. It seems like social media has every year or 18 months, it seems like there's a new platform that comes along. And I know you mentioned not wanting to spread yourself too thin. But how do you keep up then with what's the new platform without spreading yourself too thin? Or how do you think about prioritization and getting into a new area?
Yeah, so I think some of it is, depending on your resource, right? So if you have the opportunity to have a team or something like that work on your social media, you're able to then say, hey, we want to be on these different platforms. It also, there's a key where you can say, hey, we're realizing this isn't working for us anymore, and you can, try to pivot to a different platform. Some things I also consider are on a personal level, try to utilize the different platforms before you look at them as a business. So if you are utilizing them individually and you think, hey, this connects with my audience, this is something I like doing, and I see a value here, then it seems like a really good opportunity to join in. And then of course, staying up to date, obviously utilizing webinars like this to stay up to date on what are the newest trends that are coming out are valuable as well.
So are there, do people transition off of platforms? I've never really thought about it, but I mean, if you're on Facebook, you've been on it for a long time, realizing it's aging a little bit and you want to stay more relevant with a younger audience, and so you want to add TikTok or something different. Do people transition out of Facebook, for example, and shut it down, or how does that work?
It really depends on your following and how much effort you put into it. If you've built a following and built some engagement and things like that, I wouldn't recommend dropping off of the platform. But if you know, let's say you started a Twitter page a long time ago and you have 3 followers and you posted 4 times, by all means, you can delete that. The main things to think about are things like, if you want to make sure that you have like the branding handle. So if you want Skol marketing as your Twitter option, if you see that as an opportunity in the future, you want to make sure to jump on that as quickly as possible. So.
All right. And then finally, you mentioned that there are certain sort of minimum levels you should be thinking about, a couple times a week, or in case of Twitter, more than that. If you're not able to commit to that level, is it just not worth being on the channel at all, or is it just on the channel to watch your competitors and your customers, or how do you think about that if you're not able to make that commitment?
So that depends on the platform and how you're utilizing it. If it's LinkedIn, you might still have a personal page, for example, and connect with people through networking or something like that. What I'd say is, if you could at least commit to once a week, then I would consider it viable. But that's an area that I would definitely want to at least have one. 2 to 3 is more ideal. And realizing there are tools that make things easier. I know that it's super difficult to have to log in to each account, and have 3 windows open, create the posts on each of them, things like that. You utilize different platforms like Hootsuite and Buffer and things like that. It really cuts back on the time and effort that you have to put in to have a similar result. So.
Well, I think that's it for questions, and so I want to thank you
Awesome.
for taking the time and taking us through that. I found it really interesting, and so I hope other people did as well. Certainly, if you have questions for Marty, you can just reach out to him, or I can certainly make a connection if you don't have his contact information. And thanks, and everybody have a good day.
Thank you so much, Mike. It was a great webinar. So appreciate everyone that joined.